Okay, here's our project for the day. This is what you would be working on in class this week if everything was normal, but our new normal is something totally different. So we're working on a matched parallel set, and these are all milled parallels. And so we're going to make two sets of each, and they're going to be 1¼ inch, 1 3/8, and 1.5 inches. They are going to be 6 inches long when they get finished. There's going to be 5 holes. Each hole is going to be a 1/2 inch diameter with the chamfer on the top and the bottom. They're going to be 1 inch typical, so that means they're going to be spaced out 1 inch all the way across. 125 finish for the top and the bottom. They need to be flat within or parallel within 0.02. Okay, so in doing that, what we're really concerned about is that they are the same size to each other. So even if I had a set that was 1 inch 501 or 1 inch 502, it would be okay as long as they were the same. Obviously, what we're shooting for is 1 inch 500 on the dot. So I want to walk us through the steps to make these parts today. And so I've already got some stuff set up for us. Now, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions throughout the video. I'm going to need you to respond to these questions with something more than just a yes or no, okay? So I've already got my tools laid out. I've got a R8 collet, and I've got a 1/2 inch edge finder, 1/2 inch shank edge finder right here. I've got my 1/2 inch collet, and I've got my 1/2 inch drill. I've already got some parallels stuck in there, and if you notice, I got them just pulled back with some rubber bands just to hold them in place as I go. I've already got a vise stop set up here, so I've got some of the things already preliminarily set up. I've already trimmed my head. I've already squared my vise. I've got all of those things ready to go. So what I'm getting ready to do is I need to go ahead and edge find this thing, so I need to figure out where the center of the holes are. Now typically I would have asked you to go ahead and use some Dykem and to lay out where these holes should go, just so you could get a better reference of where they are. And so let me ask you this question. If I am to edge find and then just to move over 1 inch, since each hole is spaced 1 inch typical, if I were to edge find and then move over 1 inch for each hole, what would happen? Would I be in the right spot? And so let me back up just a little bit and explain myself in that for that question. These are already 6 inches 100 thousandths, so they're 100 thousandths too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to edge find off this edge. So I want you to kind of explain to me what will be my proper procedure for coming in, edge finding, and then setting up to do these holes, okay? So I want to make sure that I'm doing these as the best that I can, as efficiently as I can. All right, so what I've got is my collet. I'm gonna clean my collet up. I've already got a collet stuck in here. I'm gonna take it out and put it away. It's probably a 3/4 inch collet because I just finished up with fly cutters last time. So 1/2 inch collet goes in. Get some tension on it. I bring my edge finder in. Now I want to tighten it, but just snug. It does not need to be wrenched down ultra tight. Okay, so I just want to make sure that it's tight in there. It's not going to come out as it spins, but it is hollow inside. I don't want to collapse that thing. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my stock in. Now, I'm going to set it in here. Only thing that I've done is squared my vise up and trimmed my head in. So is this the proper procedure for setting this up? Should I go ahead and edge find before or after? What's going on? So that's a couple of questions that I could ask myself now. I could come in and edge find off of this edge and get myself set up, and I could come over here and edge find with this edge because I've already got my vise stop set up in the corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to tighten this up. Now for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to edge find off of either this edge or this edge. And then I'll probably, I could come in, I could edge find off of this edge here and find the center of my stock, but probably a better way to do it would be to just come in and edge find without my part being in there at all, okay? So I do need to make sure that I'm thinking about the way that I'm working as I'm doing that though. I need to edge find here, and then I need to move over half of my my edge finder to get that into the center, and then the same thing over here. So right now I'm gonna set up in this corner with no part in the vise at all. Okay, so I've got my spindle spinning. I'm gonna move my quill down. Down just a little bit more. Get that thing wobbling. Come in. See my kick? Now I can go ahead and move up my 100,000. Zero it there. Now I'm ready to do my x-axis. So I'm going to get wobbling again. Bring it over to the kick. Move over my 100,000ths. Okay, now by doing that, I've set this corner right here to be X0 and Y0. All right. So now I can take care of this, get this thing out of here, and move into a 1/2 inch drill. Now, if I wanted to, I could go through and spot drill these holes first. But in this situation, I am going to use just the cordless to get myself the chamfer that I need. I need that 30,000 chamfer on the top and the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and just drill my holes. I'm gonna drill my holes without using a center drill. Because when we finish this part, when we bring it to size, all of our milled edges, we're gonna actually bolt it into a fixture. I've got a fixture setting here so we can take a look at it. Here's our fixture. And so what we have is 2 bolts. And by using those bolts, we're gonna just bolt those parallels down, then we can mill all the way around it. That way we know that it's square, perpendicular, parallel. Everything comes out really nice and smooth that way. Okay, gonna move my table down so I can get my drill in there. So just deep enough I can get my part in. Clamp that thing in. Now, I need to know where the center of my part is. Now this stock is 2 inches. So that means in Y, I need to come down 1 inch. I've already moved over my 100,000, so when I move down 1 inch, I'm actually gonna be in the middle of the part. So as I come down through there, down to 1 inch, that's pretty good. Snug our table down a little bit. Then I want to come in and I just want to verify that with the point of my drill. Yep, 1 inch. So now, if I come all the way over here to the edge at 0, verify where I'm at. So here's 0. Now, that's the edge of my part. Now this is where I can give you a little more clarification on my first question, question 1. If I were to edge find and then move over 1 inch, what would happen? And explain what I should do or what's going to happen from that. Remember, this part, so this is a clue or this is a hint to this. This part is 6 inches 100 thousandths. So I'm going to go ahead and move over and I'm going to get into a position so that I can do my first hole, okay? All right, so now the material that we're using, this is hot rolled steel, and this is a high-speed steel drill. So you need to figure out, you can tell me what kind of speeds and feeds that I should be using for this. So what I want to do, even before I start moving on, I'm at a point right now where I can go ahead and take a quick check to make sure that I am exactly where I need to be. Yeah. Now, if I was off, maybe 100 thousandths, like maybe I'd forgotten to offset for my edge finder, now is a good time for me to still move over that distance that I need to, and then still be able to have enough stock in there to make sure that everything cleans up. All right, so hole number 1. Now I'm going to drill down a little bit. I'm going to release the pressure, break those chips. I'm going to slow it down just a little bit as I break through that hole. Okay, so now I'm ready to move over to my next hole. So now on this particular project, we've got these holes and they're situated 1 inch away from each other, and they're 1/2 inch holes. But the bolts that we're going to be using to hold them down in the fixture, they're also 1 inch, or they're 1/2 inch bolts. So what we've got to do is we've got to turn the outside of our bolts down just about 5 to 8 thousandths, just so we can give ourselves just a little bit of clearance in there. So this is my 4th hole. Again, I'm going to slow it down just a little bit as I go through the back side of that hole. out my spindle. Clean that table up real quick. Now, verifying that I have the holes that I need, that my part looks similar to what it's supposed to. Okay, so I can tell from here that my holes look like they are in the right spot. I'm gonna grab some calipers and just do a verification on that. Each hole should be spaced an inch apart from each other. So that means since they're half-inch holes, that every hole should be, edge of hole to edge of hole should be about 500 thousandths. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. So now, in an effort to try to always be as fast as we can, what's my best situation for trying to get these done as many as I can? So I've got to do 2, 4, 6 different parallels. So what would be a process that I could do that in? And let me ask you this question. So this is question 2. If I were to, or can I stack my parts? That'll be my question, is can I stack my parts? And so what I mean by that is, can I stack all of these parts up on top of each other and then put them in the vise? Maybe the first one I wouldn't do that to just to verify that it's right, and then maybe I wanted to stack the rest of my parts in. And so if your answer is yes, I want you to tell me how I can safely do that. And if your answer is no, tell me why then there's a danger in doing that and why I should not do that, okay? So for us, for me, at least today, I already have my parallels set so that I can do one part individually. So I've got one part done. I'm gonna go ahead and grab another part. All my parts are sawed the same length. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start drilling holes again for my second part, but I'm gonna go just the opposite way. So I don't always have to work left to right. I can definitely work right to left, and it'll be it'll do the same thing. So I don't know if you noticed or not, but the parts that I found today, I was digging through some stock that we had, and since I really don't need a set of parallels, I already have my own parallels, and I don't really have a desire to have more parallels. I came across some stock that was just a little bit thicker. I didn't find 6 pieces, but I did find 4 pieces. You want to make sure you're snugging your table down as you make these drilled hole operations. But I found some stock is just a little bit thicker. So I'm going to make these as just some samples, just for the demonstration of this, that they're just a little bit thicker. This is probably 1/4 inch stock. I didn't even check the thickness on it. So here is a set got my holes drilled, and now I'm going to deburr them, make sure that they'll fit on the fixture, and then I'll move on to the next process. Now, so if you were doing this in the shop, you would just go through and get all of your holes drilled. So question 3, I'm always trying to push you to try and use some different tools. This is always kind of our go-to. Once you start to learn the manual mill, you seem to want to gravitate towards it a lot. There are other ways to do these hole operations. Why don't you give me another example of how I could put these holes in, another tool that I could use on the manual machine area so that I could get these holes put in. And would that be faster or slower? Would it be a better way to do or not? So I'm going to, when I post this video, I'll also supply you with some questions, and so we'll answer all those questions as we go. So you don't have to necessarily remember all of these as we go. So next I'm going to move on to making sure that we can get our part on the fixture, and then we'll set up to start milling around the outsides of them. Okay, so here we have our parts. They have the holes drilled in them. I'm going to zoom in down there. And what I've done is I've mounted it in the fixture. I've got 2 bolts holding it down. And so what I've done to get this thing squared up and set up and ready to go is I've actually taken, and hopefully you can see it well enough, taken a 1/2 inch gauge pin, and I put it in the collet, snug but not super tight. I've set these 2 parallels on top of each other, and what I want to do is I want to be able to slip that pin all the way down through both of those holes, and it slides through nice and smooth. Now the advantage is I've preset that before I turn the video on, so you may need to move around. You will need to move around in X and Y in order to get that to set in there just right. So I'll go back down, check through it. Yep, still slides right in there just the way that I want it. Make sure that I'm nice and tight inside of here. So now I will set X and Y to 0. And then I'll come back around and get myself set up for my next operation. So in this operation, what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to mill all the way around these parts. And since they're already too long, we're going to take 50 thousandths off of each side, and then we're going to work to get the middle, we'll leave the middle alone, and we'll work the sides off of it to get to our sizes. So now here's a question for you. Is there, or there is really, I should say, a proper way to mill these parts? If I've got 6 individual parallels that have been blanked out like this, I've got them stacked up in 3 sets of 2, what's my best way to go? Do I go 1.5 inches, 1 3/8, 1 1/4? Do I go 1 1/4, 1 3/8, 1.5 inches? There's a definite process and pattern that is better than the others on that. So that's the question I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to need you to answer that one for me whenever we go through the questions on this. Okay, so I found my 0. I'm ready to switch out, grab my end mill. I've got a 1/2 inch end mill that I'm using. I'm using the Kennametal TE just because it's not really necessarily my favorite end mill right now, but it just happens to be the one that I've got close to me. So I'm gonna grab it, and I'm gonna go around the outside of this. So now I've got to go a certain direction as I go around this part. Direction on these matters. So what I want to do is I want to travel this way, this way, this way, this way, okay? So I want to conventional mill. Conventional mill, not climb mill. So climb milling would typically happen on our CNCs. It is not going to happen here. We're going to conventional mill all the way around the outside of this. So I could go ahead and move my quill down. I'm not gonna do that. I typically like to leave my quill up and tight as possible. I'm gonna move my table up. So I want to go down deep enough that I can clear both of those parallels without running into my fixture. My fixture's already been ran a few times for other parts. We make a lot of these on the CNC side. Okay, so that's just going to give me a cut to go around the outside of it. Kind of see where I'm at on the outside of this thing. Size, I'm going to cut into my fixture just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and take it down to 3 inches 300 on the outside edge. So I've got, this is all from center line, so if I go 3 inches 300, I'm leaving myself a little bit of room to take some finished passes across there. So I can move along at a pretty good pace here. One, my end mill is carbide. It's a great end mill. Two, my material is very, very soft. So on this, I'm probably going to go ahead and bring my 6-inch dimension in to size right away, and then I'll just mill my 2 dimensions to bring my height in after that. So I'm going to go ahead and mill this edge, come back, I'll go ahead and mill these 2 sides into size, then I'll work these 2 into the dimension that I'm trying to get to. So since I set the center of this part as 0, I can go pretty symmetrical around the part. So I can go to 3.3 on this side. Come down this face. Nope, not even cutting on that side. So I can go to 1.2. Negative 1.2 here, that should get me squared up. So both sides are about the same. As I rip across here, I'm going to go ahead and bring this to 3.25, and then this will be the 3.25 coming from the center. That should then get me closer to where I want to be. I'm having to add that 1/4 of an inch for the center of my end mill. Since I have a 1/2 inch end mill, 1/4 inch radius, and I'm not able to use any type of cutter compensation or anything for that. So I'm just having to just kind of mentally do cutter compensation in my head as I go. I'm going to 3.25. Now while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and stop. I'm going to measure my overall height of my parallel itself. So I'm at 1 inch 900. So that means even to get to the 1 inch 500, I've got 400 thousandths to go. So I'm going to go to 1 inch 150 because what I want to do is I want to travel across here, bring this side in, but I want to try and make all my moves as efficient as possible. So as I get to this side, I will be at 3.25 on the opposite side. And that should take care of my overall length of my part. And then I can start knocking out just the rest of it over, just bring this to 1.5 inches. And so by stacking these two on top of each other, I don't have to worry about is one going to be taller than the other. Make sure that they stay the same as they go. Okay, I'm gonna go to 3.25. So now as long as I keep up a good feed rate and correct RPM, I don't have to worry about my part getting hot. On this, I'm taking pretty small cuts, so I don't have to worry about too much of heat transfer anyways. But what I do want to try to do is if there's going to be heat, I want it to come into my chip, not into the part itself. All right, so I'm going to assume that my overall length is right. I'm going to check it here in just a minute, but before I So at this point, I would want to take a measurement after I finish this side. And then however much I'm off, I want to come in and make those adjustments and go ahead and maybe take 1 or 2 more passes, bring it into size. Mostly just checking for any kind of taper that I might have right now.